This episode is proudly supported by the new Capital Food Market Canberra, where you can explore the very best producers, artisans, fresh food providores and hospitality venues of the region. Here's Jared Deaton from 3 Mills Bakery.
And I think that's the beating heart of the city. You always sort of travel and remember going to, markets and see what the culture's all about. So it was sort of only natural for us to really want to be a part of the new Capital Food Market. Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. I think it's an amazing market.
For more information, go to capitalfoodmarket.com.au or visit the markets and feed your curiosity.
If they sit and eat and they like the food or the drinks, just the whole atmosphere, that's kind of like, for me, that's enough. I don't need any awards or accolades or anything like that. As long as people come into the venue, have a good time and walk away happy, my job's done.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Many of us live our adult lives in destinations far from where we grew up. But what's it like creating and running a restaurant that leans into the memories, food and experiences of your youth, but nowhere near where you grew up? Vien Nguyen is the co-owner and chef of Eddy and Wolf in Robina, Queensland. Vien, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Huck. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. You got a fascinating sort of approach with your restaurant that's kind of dedicated to the memories of living in Canberra, and here you are in Queensland.
Yeah, Eddy and Wolf has been it's been a journey to get where Eddy and Wolf is. So ever since we've moved up to Queensland from Canberra, and our background from owning Canto for such a long period of time, and eventually everything that myself and my wife we've learnt during those times leading up to opening up Eddy and Wolf has been, and that's the evolution of our experience that we picked up along the way. It gave us the confidence to open up Eddy and Wolf.
I love on the website how you sort of reference the inspirations of growing up in Canberra as kind of the embodiment of what you're doing up there in Queensland. Tell us a little bit about how that transpires sort of in the menu and with what you do.
So I think Canberra was obviously we grew up in Canberra, lived there for 20-something years, and kind of picked up a bit of that hospitality, because as an Asian growing up, and my parents and my wife's family, they're all in restaurants, and I wasn't fully into the whole hospitality industry at the time, but I did a bit of front of house work, and slowly moved to a bit of back of house work. But it didn't all grow blew up until I got married and then moved up to Queensland, and my mother-in-law opened up Canto for us to work. She just wanted us all to work together. So when we first moved up, we all had we just trying to find our feet on the Gold Coast, and she said, look, she'll open something, and because Mum's been really experienced, she's been doing it for a long time, and she did this restaurant, and my wife and her sister, they've always worked in the restaurant as front of house, and so I was going to be Mum's apprentice, and mate, when Canto opened, that first night was chaotic. It was, but it was look back on what and what happened, and just to kind of see how you start and where we are now, the whole learning process. So it's been I've for me, it's I've totally enjoyed the whole experience.
Take us back to when you were young and in Canberra. Do you have any stories of sort of the role that food played within your family?
Yeah, so So mum, I know that mum and dad, they've always worked in restaurants. Um, and mum cooks amazing Vietnamese food. And then I can't remember dad, but dad was always home with us, and he was always good at cooking. He would throw something together, and I remember late at night, 10, 11, maybe even 12, dad would do a rice noodle with grilled pork and herbs, and that is the one dish that it's just, I don't know why, it just stuck with me until now. It's just a classic dish that just stuck with me. That I'm going. That's the one dish that I properly learned from dad back then. But and I like it's like my family wasn't always into restaurants, but I think eventually I was very young. I might have been 10, 12 or whatever it is. I think eventually mum and had a partner, and they opened up a restaurant. I remember, and it was in Civic, and she took me to the back door, and it was it was behind where the bus station in Civic. It was one of those restaurants upstairs, and real young, she's taken as a kid, any kid that has parents who have restaurants, you always go with them to a restaurant. And I remember going to this place and too young, and later down the track, I learned the partnership broke up, and she struggled, so she closed the restaurant, but she kept on working. And mum worked pretty much for a lot of the Vietnamese restaurants in Canberra, and she worked at Timmy's for no, this is towards the end of her thing. She worked at Timmy's for a period of time, and so when I think back now, it's man, I wish that I know what I know now, or now I was a bit older so that I can help them, because I know how hard it is now. So that's kind of where my experience was. And then obviously I met my wife, and because her family has always been in a restaurant, so it kind of I started helping out at the restaurant a little bit, and at front of I was just doing front of house work. But it wasn't until moving up to Queensland and mum opening up the restaurant up here that I was actually involved in a lot. I was her sous, her apprentice. I was there for her.
Were you always, do you think, destined for a career in food, or was there something else that you kind of wanted to do?
No, I didn't think I was destined for hospitality or food, but I think no, until I got to Queensland and until mum did the restaurant. No, but not even when mum had the restaurant. It was actually years later when mum wanted to retire and she offered the restaurant to us. We actually said no. So we had people come and evaluate the restaurant and everything, and we said because we were kind of because my wife Tal, she's been doing hospitality for forever, right? And she was ready to let it all go, and she was done. Because I think having a restaurant was such a family affair. We have two kids now, and back then, man, I spent no time with the kids. I was at the restaurant 7 nights a week. I wasn't involved in anything that's at night time. So I lost a lot of the time with the kids. So we were kind of all right, we're just going to, she went back to studying. She graduated and everything, and because she wanted to find a daytime job that can she can have time for the family. So when mum offered the restaurant to us, we initially said no. And we did a bit of trouble just because we didn't go anywhere because of the restaurant. So we took a bit of time. We went down to Sydney. We did a trip to Melbourne. And just back then when Chin Chin was really popping, it was early days, and it was so busy, and kind of saw what was happening everywhere else, and the Gold Coast was lacking that. So we came back, we said our stuff, we literally threw everything into, so we took the restaurant and we just transformed a normal Asian restaurant into a Asian bar dining, loud music in the suburbs. And like, you know what, like the people really took to it, the Gold Coast and the locals, and oh, dude, it was a turning point for us, and we kind of like embraced it because I love it when it's super busy, and seeing people, enjoying like the food and drinks, and the whole atmosphere. That's kind of like what drives me, to do what I do.
Before we get to Eddy and Wolf, tell us a little bit more about Canto, because it was really successful. Do you have any stories of what it was like working with your mum?
Um, like she is like my master. She taught me like the fundamentals, and she's really old school. But I think the one thing that when I look back now is like when Mum owned the restaurant, I feel like I was being really slack, and I didn't give her my everything. No, and then when you're an owner now, you kind of like look back and go, oh, you regret, because now I understand her struggles that she went through. And that's yeah. So like looking back on that, like I wish that I could have helped her a lot more. But turning turning Kanto into what it is now. We've sold it. I think it was June last year. Because it just became too much. Running the two restaurants like after COVID. But it was like I really enjoyed Kanto in those early days, and seeing it grow and people receiving it, so well.
Are there any sort of dishes or cooking techniques that you learnt from your mum that you use now in sort of Eddy and Wolf?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot about the braising, side. I did a lot of that. I learned a lot of that from Mum. A lot of like Mum didn't have recipes, kind of thing. It was kind of like a lot of it was verbal. So so when we moved on to Eddy and Wolf, and because I learned a lot of like her sauce techniques and stuff like this, and trying to kind of like, Mum, can I just have some of those recipes to write down? So like, because I know I'm not going to remember everything. So I actually had to set a day with her to like, let's do a few of these things and let me write it down. I'll just watch her, watch it. And it's like a coffee spoon or tablespoon or whatever it is. And I'll just write it down. But that's Mum. And I love that. I love that. And I like having Eddy Wolf. I've had Mum come in and like collaborate with us, like cook a few dishes, but the thing is like the customer at Eddy Wolf, they really love that backstory of like where we came from. So every time we held those events with Mum, like people would like rock up and then support, and they love like seeing Mum in the kitchen, and it's totally different. The Eddy Wolf's kitchen is totally different to Kanto's kitchen. So because like at Eddy and Wolf, like it's an open kitchen, so you're in front of people and everyone can see what you're doing and who's in there. So, and Mum loved it. It was good to see like she was just like it was just her time to kind of like shine, but not actually have to do a lot of the bulk work. It's like whatever she's taught to me has now, this is what the product of what all these years of teaching me everything that and this is what is the result. So like I'm proud, like like, and I tell everyone, like Mum, she's the person that gave me everything that I have now. Yeah.
So tell us about the beginnings of Eddy and Wolf. What was it like, and what were you surprised about building the restaurant?
So Eddy and Wolf wasn't like when we started looking for another venue. Eddy and Wolf wasn't the end product of what we were looking for. It was going to be another fun, like another area of on the Gold Coast of Kanto. But when we found Eddy and Wolf, it was a really small space. So when my wife saw that space, we said we had to do something that's a little bit different. And you know what? And I said to her, look, you come up with a name for it. And she came up with Eddy and Wolf. Eddy and Wolf. And it was so perfect because it was actually, when I think about it now, it's like, you know, this story about like our story. Like I grew up on Wolf Crescent. She was from Eddy Crescent. So we combined the two names. So that's how it came. And Eddy Wolf's menu and everything, it's all about about us. You know, it's actually food that, you know, I learned from mum, or we love to eat at home, or food that mum cooked for us at home, or food that we ate on our journeys. So that's what everyone's eating at the restaurant.
Tell us a little bit about your food. Is there a dish or two that you can take us through that sort of exemplifies your food?
Yeah. So this is the one particular dish that the main one would be like a braised duck with bean curd and kangkung. And this dish was made for us to eat at home by mum. But I just simplified the dish and just like refine the cooking method. The cooking method is kind of the same, but I refined it. So like, you know, when a lot of the dishes at Eddy and Wolf is, I don't create anything, but I kind of like take from childhood memories or food I like to eat, and I just refine it and present it in a more refined version of it. And that duck dish was like, it's something that I took from mum's recipe book, and I just present it in like, you know, in our way. That's probably the main one.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Gold Coast. You've been a part of the culinary landscape for a while there now. What's it? Has it changed a lot in the last decade?
It's changed a lot. I've seen, because when we opened up Canto, it was, I think from memory, like we were the second Vietnamese restaurant on the Gold Coast, and during that time, we've seen a lot of other Vietnamese restaurants open up and come and go like very quickly. But I think just keep years ahead now. There's a lot of more Vietnamese like kids open up cafes and restaurants on the Gold Coast, and it's so good to see. And I feel like there's certain people that do it for the right reason, and there's some kids that do it for the wrong reason, and that's where they fail. I think it's like restaurant and cafes. It's not. There's no real formula, and it's not easy to do. But you just need to have like, you know, bit of experience, bit of drive, bit of passion to what you do, and you can make it work. But the hospitality scene, the restaurant scene on the Gold Coast is just blown up. I think like pretty much after COVID.
Was it hard for you to let go of Canto?
It was the hardest thing. It was the hardest thing for me because my heart was always, because I can only be at the one shop, and at the beginning, like I had staff that like I can have both main chefs at both shops, and if something happens, I can run from the two, and keep everything going. But I think when the question was asked, do I keep Eddy Wolf or Canto? I was going to go, let's get rid of Eddy and Wolf, because I've always been at Canto. So it was so hard. It was a real hard decision because like everyone that I know at Canto, like we kept stuff for a long time, and it was hard for me to see like I feel kind of like I let them down, but the thing is, like after COVID, like there was a lot of people coming and going because of COVID, so there was a lot of fresh faces in the restaurant. So when the time came for me to make the ultimate call, I had to let Canto go. because the team at Kento was too big. There's too many things that if it falls apart, like there was too many things that like people that we had to juggle. So Kento was Eddy and Wolf was the better option for us to keep, and it's definitely the right one.
Although it was hard to let go of, has it freed you up and given you more space to be creative with just the one venue now?
Oh, definitely. Like it has been very good, for us at Eddy and Wolf with staff. There's a point in time, like, it was self-run for a bit, but I think with the whole COVID thing, and then people, like, they find that when they first started, they really love what they do, but eventually, like, everyone has like kind of their dreams and stuff. We get people like they're starting to move on to other projects. So like this is the reason why I'm back in the kitchen more now. And like I say to him, I love being in the kitchen. I always kind of like get drawn back into the kitchen and try to come up with reinvent like food again to make it more exciting. I think that's the only reason like I enjoy it so much.
You mentioned your wife and business partner before. We've had her on the show as well to hear her story. How's the working relationship and how does it work with the venue with the two of you?
Like I've heard a lot of people that they can't work with their partners and wives, but like with us, we have always worked really well together. I think like 90% of the time. Yeah. We I think that there's a mutual respect, for each other. She's always been in front of house. I'm always back of house, but we're always like, because we understand what it's like to be on the opposite side. So it's, I don't know, it's crazy. We get along really well, even like when we work together. So there's been like no real dramas about it, anything when we do work together.
Now that you've sort of given yourself a bit of space with the one venue, what sort of plans do you have over the next sort of couple of years?
Well, we were looking at like other avenues, like another venue to add on to, on to like the plan, but like I said, like things happened. And like we are both drawn back in full time again at Eddy and Wolf, so we kind of like just put it on a bit of a hold until like things become a little bit more stable with staffing and the whole the management side. So we do have plan on trying to expand, but at the moment nothing at the moment.
Well, you've created an incredible venue that's at the forefront of dining there on the Gold Coast. What do you love about what you do?
To be honest, like I love to see people come into Eddy and Wolf because it's so out of the way. It's not like it's not a place where we get a lot of foot traffic, and people either hear from us from word of mouth, their neighbours or their friends, and they come in for the first time, and I love when I stand in the kitchen, I see them come in, and the look of surprise when they see the venue. That's the initial thing, like enjoyment for me. And if they sit and eat and they like the food or the drinks, just the whole atmosphere, that's kind of like for me that's enough. I don't need any awards or accolades or anything like that. As long as like people come into the venue, have a good time, and walk away happy. Like my job's done. That's what I love about it.
Well, it's an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today and hear just a part of your story, and look forward to seeing what you do next.
Thanks, Huck.
Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast. or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.